All right, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to choose a landscape and paint it. And before you get started, you're going to want to just go ahead and uncrop it. And you can either go top to bottom or side by side. And just pay attention to that middle one right there. You want it to be halfway through there, and that'll give you the exact same size. I'll go side by side. And you're going to want to lock this layer, make a new layer, and then put it below this one. This should really be your top layer, and let me show you why. When you paint, you do not want to paint on top of that painting. So if it's on a lower layer, then it'll stay underneath it. So even if you do paint over here, it's not going to cover up that stuff. So let's talk about the palette of paintbrushes that you have. Go ahead and go to Window, Brushes. You're going to want to have that open. And you might also want to get into your brush settings if you're super pro and want to play around with that. Let's take a look at these brushes in order. So Real Oils, we already know what it does. It's really good for adding a lot of texture. And remember, it's pressure sensitive. So the harder you push, the more you get. If you push soft, you get kind of this blend. This one right here, Real Oils Flex Wet, is going to be good for a really smoother kind of look. And as we get other colors, it just kind of melts everything together. And then Oil Mix is going to be for creating like a gradient. So let's take a look. Let's say that I start off with Real Oils Flex Wet, and I'm just going to kind of lay down. I would probably start actually with a background. My main color for this is probably going to be something like that. And that's pretty common when we're painting. So you might want to just start off by either bucket filling or just kind of painting like a base color that you can use for this. So the next thing I'm going to do is get this kind of lighter color right here, and I'm just going to paint that in there. And then I'm going to come up here, paint that, and then I can use the oil mix tool to just kind of blend those together. And voila, now I have kind of that sky. And if you feel like you overdid it, you can always come back in and add a little bit more of that light and then kind of mix it up a little bit more. And just maybe don't go quite as low, or, go a little slower, or use a smaller brush or whatever. Okay, now for clouds, we do have a cloud brush. So let's go ahead and pull that out. And that cloud brush is going to be, if you can always just type in the word clouds, but it's going to be here at the bottom. So I'm going to pull that color right there. Now you'll see that it's grabbing like an image, and I can actually change that instead to be, instead of like an image, I can have it be just a color. So I can say load solid colors only. So let's try that again. You probably wouldn't want to do that. It might work out a little bit better. But now on the cloud brush, make that a little smaller. And I'm getting a lighter color here. Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's try that. And you know what? That's feeling like a little bit gray. That's kind of more like the background clouds. So I'm probably going to just come in with some white right here, and then maybe change that up. Get that smaller size, push a little hard. The smaller size will do less blending. So maybe even a little smaller. And it's kind of a scatter brush, so it'll kind of mix around and you get some nice clouds that way. All right. And there you go. Now for these mountains, I might want to use a palette knife. So we got this oil knife right here. And then what about the thing about this one is you twist your knife to kind of move it around in different directions. Sorry, you twist your pen. So you literally, the different angles will cause it to do different things. So let me use the eyedropper here to get this like dark color. And then I'm going to kind of push it like that. And then I'm going to push kind of hard. And I'm not, you can use the grid if you want to, but I'm not really too worried about it being completely the same. You can kind of get a little creative with this. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing that you're seeing. And there we go. And then maybe I'd come down here with this color and kind of brush that over there, and maybe do a little bit of mixing with the mixer brush. which is the oil mix right there. Maybe you get a nice small one, and kind of blend those together. And then you can come in, like add a little bit more texture if you want to. That actually feels a little dark. I don't know why I started with that color, but then so yeah, you can keep doing that kind of stuff for the rest of these. And then for the trees, there is a few different ways of doing this. So I might start off with the pine forest tree, and that one's going to be like really soft, small, right? But then as I would get these ones in the foreground, I might want to push harder. And then we have kind of those two different layers. Probably it would be smart to do all of this in different layers as you're working. So I'm going to do this one like in that layer. And I'm actually going to either push softer or use a slightly bigger brush. And I'll make a new layer for these guys. And so let's see. Oh, I should have done that. I forgot to put those on that layer. Okay, it's fine. And then on this layer, we kind of want to have that like soft, like mist on top of it. So I might use this Real Oils brush. This brush, the Flex Wet one, which I just moved to the bottom. And then maybe I'll pull my flow down all the way to a really low number, and I'll get this kind of light color. And I'll just kind of do that. And you can see that the mist is kind of building. I want it to be a little bit bluer. So, you know, you can always come in and adjust the colors, even if you don't have to always use the color picker. So then we get this nice layering effect. You can see that there's like two different layers. Maybe I can come in and pull this down a little bit because it feels like it's a little too high. And that looks pretty cool. And yeah, and without too much work. Now I want to show you another way of making trees, and we're going to do this just kind of on a clean palette here. So there's a few other brushes I want you to look at, and that would be, let's get kind of neutral background. There is the oil tree. So let's take a look at what that does. This one is going to follow the direction of your brush. So you can kind of get like some plants, some trees. You might want to start off with like a darker color and kind of mix it around. You can put like little things like that on it. And then oftentimes on trees and stuff, we have a little bit of highlights. So maybe with like a light touch, you could then come in and do like some areas like that. So, you know, kind of looks like a bunch of fluffy trees. This tree is going to be kind of the same idea. But again, not just trees. This would also work for bushes. So again, start with the darker color. So you got some bushes right here. And then throw in a little bit of like the highlights and stuff on it, and maybe even some shadows underneath to get yourself some bushes. Okay, this one is basically the same. And then we get into, oh no, I'm sorry, this is not. This is more like creating nope, it is, never mind, sorry. Then we have the pine trees. This is a really cool one. It's another tilt brush, so the direction of your brush matters. So check this out. Start off by pushing soft, kind of go back and forth. Try that again. Very soft. And then I kind of push a little bit harder, and we get something like this. So we get a nice pine tree. Now, if you want to turn your brush the other direction, you got to just kind of spin it. We can have one that kind of the leaves kind of go upward instead. So again, I'm pushing softly. I'm kind of going back and forth. And then we got a nice pine tree where the leaves are upturned instead of downturned. And again, you might want to start dark and then maybe add some like, I'm going to get some like kind of yellowish, lighter colors. And just kind of with a soft touch, wherever the sun is, you can kind of do a little bit of that. Let's do the same thing over here. And then even some black on the other side, just light touch, kind of tap, 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 give it some shadow. And this is kind of pretty common when you're actually painting way to do it. So let's zoom in. Probably even more of a lightness there. We just really want the contrast. This pine tree is more for, I think, just kind of making it look like you have pine trees, kind of like that one. I probably wouldn't use this one, but let's see. Yeah, I think this one's more for like terrain. So you got some like pine trees on the hills. And then this one, yeah, same thing. I'm just gonna get rid of those two. Okay, here we got some textured ground. So you got some dirt on the ground, and let's get this a little bit smaller. So you get something like that, and then maybe throw in a few other colors. Gray. So this might work with dirt and stuff. Probably a smaller brush. I'm not really liking the effect of this, but maybe it'll work if I pull the flow down. I don't know. But it's there. Get creative with it if you want to try it. Then there is foliage, which is going to be also just like for creating like grassy hills and things like that. And you'll notice that it curves with your brush. So if I go straight, it looks like that. But if I curve, it'll follow it in a circle. So this would be good for like hills and flowers. And, you know, you can start off with that and then throw in some color to make it look like flowers. Bigger in the front. Let me get a little messy. So we want it like bigger in the front, in the foreground. And then as we get to the background, we would want to make that smaller. And I think it's pressure sensitive. So like if you push lighter, then you're going to get a smaller texture. Actually, that's, yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay. Then we got leaves, and this is good. This would be good for like trees and things like that as well, especially like obviously trees that have leaves. So if you had like an autumn tree, something like that, and then throw in, you know, some of the other fall colors. And then this one is good for creating like some really good lines work, texture. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to start off with this oil brush. Oops. Okay, and then let's say I blend these with my blender brush, my mixer. And then I'm going to come in with that brush. And you can see that we get some texture in this thing. So if I got a really big one, and this goes the direction of your brush. So if I push up, it goes up. If I go this way, it goes that way. So it can be good for creating texture, but again, it's kind of situational and it kind of depends. Maybe I just throw a really dark color in right here. And then I'll come in with that. So maybe like a river, you might use something like this for creating water. And then for fine lines, this is a kind of weird, sorry. The fine line brush, it looks weird, you know, but what it's really for is for really tiny lines. So when you create the fine line brush, it's more like this. And this is when you just need like a really fine line. Yeah, just if you're drawing detail work and you want to have those little fine lines, this is a pretty good brush for it. You got to keep it small for it to do really what you're asking for. You could use that to kind of start off with the mountains, draw a line down here and bucket fill it. Oh, there we go. So that might be a fast way to do it if you wanted to use that brush for that. And that is, that's pretty much it. So it's now your turn to find a landscape of your own and play around with these brushes. And yeah, good luck.